This podcast is not meant to be professional advice of any kind. It is meant to be informative and entertaining. If you make any changes to your life, see the appropriate professional before you do so. Hello and welcome to SuperAge. My name is David Harry Stewart. I'm the founder of Ageist. At SuperAge, we help you live better and become the best version of yourself. And who doesn't want a SuperAge, right? Today's show is brought to you by Inside Tracker, the dashboard to your inner health. Go to insidetracker.com/Ageist, save 20% on all their products. Today's show is also brought to you by Element, LMNT. My favorite electrolyte mix. It's what I put in my water in the morning, and it's what I put in my water at the gym. Go to drinkelement.com/Ageist and receive a free 8-serving sample pack with your first purchase. And this week, we also welcome a new exciting sponsor to the program, Timeline Nutrition, with their product MitoPure, the first clinically tested urolithin A supplement. Go to timelinenutrition.com/Ageist, use the code Ageist at checkout, and save 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Welcome to episode 107 of the SuperAge podcast. This will be dropping on November the 2nd, 2022. So this weekend in the mountains of Utah, we went for a hike because it's winter here is the other thing. That I know a lot of places that you folks are listening to this, it's still fall and it's warm, or maybe you're in California and it never gets cold. But here, we're looking at highs in the 40s and lows in the low teens every night. And there's quite a bit of snow up in the mountains. So went for a hike and we went up to about 10,000 feet. And it was so beautiful. I love the way the landscape looks in the snow. And this just might be from my background as a photographer, that the aesthetics of snow I find fantastic. I don't know what it does. It's just like the white against the blue sky and the jaggy mountains. And it felt great. So hope to be doing more of that. There's nothing like going out in nature. And, I do spend a lot of time inside looking at screens or in a gym, but there's nothing like being out walking in nature to just calm down, take that sympathetic nervous system and just calm it down. And I really notice the difference when I sleep at night after I do something like that. Of course, I'm a little tired from the exercise, but I think it's just being out in nature. There's something inherently distressing about, not distressing, but de-stressing about that. So here's a plug for walking in the snow in nature. So this week on the show, what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the things that I do in a day. A lot of people ask me, how do I have time to do the things that I do? How do I manage to stay reasonably healthy? What's the stuff that I do? So we're going to go through that. It's not going to be absolutely everything, but you'll get a pretty good idea of how I run my days and how I run my week, so that I can really take the best care of myself that I can without getting completely obsessive about it, and still have time for work and family and relaxation. So we're going to get to that in just a second after a quick word from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Timeline Nutrition and their breakthrough product, MitoPure. We all know how important mitochondrial energy is, and especially maintaining muscle and strength as we age. Urolithin A, which is found in MitoPure, has been clinically proven to increase muscle strength and endurance with no other changes in lifestyle. Urolithin A is essentially upgrading your body's cellular power grid, giving your body the energy it needs to optimize. We've been testing MitoPure here with the SuperAge team, and our findings are aligned with those clinical studies. This is a product that I'm going to be taking every day for as long as I can. It's become an essential part of my routine. Timeline is offering listeners of this podcast 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Go to timelinenutrition.com/Ageist and use the code Ageist to get 10% off your order. That's TIMELINENUTRITION.com/Ageist. Maybe check out their starter pack, which has all three formats, and let me know what you think. Today's show is brought to you by Inside Tracker. Inside Tracker is the dashboard to your inner health. Just as a car has a dashboard so you can tell how fast you're going and how much gas you have, you need a dashboard for your inner health. You need to know what's going on inside your body if you're going to optimize it. You need some way to monitor what's going on inside your body. And then once you know what's going on inside your body, you need some way to help optimize that. And this is what I get from Inside Tracker. With their 43 biomarkers that they're testing, along with the genetics that they test me for, I know what I should be eating to really optimize where I want to be. And I get to choose that target of where I want to be. Am I working on brain health? Am I working on longevity? Is there something with my fitness that I'm interested in optimizing? The app will make recommendations personalized to me based on my blood work and my genetics. And that's something that I just think is invaluable. It's not a replacement for seeing my doctor. It's not a replacement for any of the other professionals in my life. It is an additive, but it is an additive that is with me every day, all day. And I can consult it and I can see what should I be doing right now. And then I can test again and see what changes have happened. If you go to insidetracker.com/ageist, you'll save 20% on all their products. Today's show is also brought to you by Element, the electrolyte mix that I've been using to stay hydrated and to keep my electrolytes in balance. I started placing Element electrolyte mix into my water after my workouts on the recommendation of a friend of mine who's a 50-time Ironman competitor. I told him that I was having a lot of trouble recovering from my workouts, and I thought it was my age. And it turned out it was my electrolytes. And once I started putting Element into my water, I noticed an incredible difference in my ability to recover from my workouts. It went from, truthfully, an hour or two to like 10 minutes. Because the problem was my electrolytes were off. Now what I do is I put Element in my water when I get up first thing in the morning. I also have it in my water that I drink during the day. And then, of course, at the gym, I make sure that there's Element in my water. And, of course, in my beloved sauna, the same thing, Element in the water. So it turns out that some of that brain fog and just muscle ache and sluggishness that I was feeling was not age-related. It was actually electrolyte-related. We talk a lot about hydration on this podcast, but the electrolyte mix within that water is really critical. Right now, Element is offering listeners of this podcast a free sample pack with any purchase. That's 8 single-serving packets free with any Element order. It's a great way to try out all 8 flavors and share Element with a salty friend. Get yours at drinkelement.com/ageist. This deal is only available through this link. You must go to drinkelement.com/ageist. We'll be leaving that link in the show notes too. After you check it out, let me know what you think about it. Did it make the change for you that it did for me? I try to get up every morning sometime between 6:30 and 7. I don't use an alarm clock. I have one of the people that we've interviewed on this program calls it an alarma clock because it's so alarming. I just wake up at more or less the same time every morning. And before I get out of bed, there's a couple of things that I do. First, I roll over, I grab my phone, and what I do is I wear a Whoop when I go to sleep. And a Whoop is a wearable tracker. It's an activity tracker. It works okay at that. What it really works great at, though, is as a sleep tracker. So I hit my Whoop button and say, okay, tell me how much did I sleep and how efficient was my sleep. And it'll take it about 10 minutes to figure that out. Then what I do is I grab something called a Morpheus. And it's something that it's part of Joel Jamison's 8 Weeks Out program. And hey, tip for next week, we got Joel Jamison on the program. And I'm so excited. He is the OG of conditioning. So we got him on it. Anyway, so I strap this Morpheus thing on my wrist. And what it does one singular thing. And that is it will test my resting heart rate and it'll measure my HRV. And it takes it about 2.5 minutes to do this. Now, why do I do this? Really, the sort of HRV data, and HRV is heart rate variability. So that's going to give me a sense of what the overall stress is on my body. And stress, you guys know I like to talk about pies. You get a stress pie. And that pie gets broken up into your physical stress, your emotional stress, your intellectual stress, all of that. So all that will impact my HRV, my heart rate variability. Why do I track it first thing in the morning? Because it needs to be tracked at the same time in sort of the same position every day. And I find that this is the best time before I even get out of the bed. The HRV measurements that you get on all these other wearables, and I'm not going to name names, but they're basically BS. Because what they're doing is they're taking an average over the day, or over the night, over this long period of time, and they have these proprietary algorithms that claim to make sense of it. I don't know anybody who really takes them too seriously. This one works really well, though. So I do that. And then right away, I've got a sense of where's my body at. So if I'm, rested, my heart rate, my resting heart rate will be somewhere between like 49, 51. If I have like 2 or 3 days off, it'll be closer to 49. If I've had sort of a hard workout the day before, I've had a stressful work day, it can be in the mid 50s. My HRV, as measured on a Morpheus, if I'm really rested and I've done something, like if I'm in my sauna blanket the night before, I find the sauna blanket has a really positive impact on both my resting heart rate and my heart rate variability. If I do something like that before I go to bed and I'm really concentrate on making my sleep the best it can, my HRV high will be somewhere in the low 80s. If I'm under a lot of stress for whatever reason, it can go as low as like the high 60s. So those are like sort of the first things that I look at before I get out of bed. Realize how much variability there is in that number. So people who say like, oh, geez, I gained 2 pounds or I lost a pound, I don't know what they're talking about, because my weight will range between, day to day, sort of 168, 169 on the low end. And a couple of days ago, we went to a Mexican restaurant it wasn't very good. And my weight was up to like 174. That has nothing to do with how much fat I have or how much muscle I have. It's just a question of how much fluid essentially is being held in my body. But if I do it every day, I know what that range is, and I find that very interesting. So next up is, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, and then I go downstairs and I have a couple big glasses of water. So probably 2 10 or so ounce glasses of water. I put some element in it, LMNT, the electrolyte in it, because it's going to help absorb through my large intestine. Sometimes I'll put a little lemon in there, and that immediately hydrates my body, because during the night, just breathing, you're going to lose a lot of water. And where I live in Utah, and it's a pretty dry place to begin with. I try to keep the humidity in the house somewhere in the mid 20s. That can be a little challenging in the winter. Even if I have humidifiers going on throughout the house, you're taking air that's outside that's maybe, humidity of like 20, and then you heat it up. If you don't humidify it, you're looking at, sort of single digits on the humidity. So anyway, wherever you are, just breathing, you will give off quite a bit of moisture during the night. So first thing, I want to replace that. So by the time I've had my water and brushed my teeth, my Whoop data will come up with my sleep. And what I'm looking for there is really 3 numbers. The one is, what's my absolute amount of sleep? How much of that sleep is restorative? So that's deep and REM. I like to have that number, better than 2 hours. And then most importantly, the number I'm really interested in is my sleep efficiency. That tells me how much of the night was I awake. And, somebody once told me feelings are not facts. And I might feel that I had I was twisting and turning in the night and I couldn't sleep. And that may not be true at all. Or I may feel I was like really restful, and that may not be true. So the Whoop doesn't lie about this. And I like to be, if I do everything I'm supposed to do, I'll get my sleep efficiency around, 94%. With that, I'm pretty happy with that. If I'm working out a lot, like I have been lately, I need at least between 8 and 8.5 hours of sleep. Now, to get 8.5 hours of sleep at a 90% sleep efficiency, that means I need to be in the bed, in sleep position, whatever that is, for more than that. So more like 9 hours. So just because I'm laying in the bed thinking I'm sleeping for 8 hours, I'm probably not, because I'm not getting 100% sleep efficiency. I don't know anybody who does that. So that's a number that interests me, because then if that's low, like if it's like 85 or if it's like 80 would be like a disaster for me. That means there's something really either going on with my body. Maybe I'm getting sick. Maybe I'm really worried about something, or I really messed up my sleep routine. So once I'm clear on how my sleep was, and I've got my HRV and my resting heart rate, I've got a pretty good sense of where my body's at. Then I lay down on the sofa here and I meditate. And what I've been using for, maybe it's close to 2 years now, is a brain tap. And brain tap is a device that they're headphones, and there's sort of like visor, and there's lights that blink. And then you listen to one of, I don't know, might have like 500 tracks, depending on what you want to sort of program your brain for the day. And I usually go for one of the wake up tracks, one of the shorter ones that's like, 12 to 15 minutes. On the weekends, I'll do a longer one, maybe 20, 25 minutes. And I find this is just, it's a great way to set me up for the day. So once my meditation is done, then I'm going to start making my breakfast. And I'm probably, while I'm making my breakfast, I start really looking at the phone. So I want to see what's going on in social media. I want to I look at my emails on the phone, because when I wake up, I probably have maybe 100 in there, of which 90 are things that I get rid of. And I find I get rid of them really quickly with the phone. So I'll do that. I'll have a look and see if there's anything on social media that I need to respond to. And then I get serious about making my breakfast. So the breakfast routine has changed, pretty substantially in the last year. Maybe a year ago when I did this, it was all about smoothies. And I did the smoothie thing for, a long time. I don't know, maybe like 10 years. But what I'm finding is that because I've got these workouts that I do in the mornings, a lightweight workout is like 500 calories and a heavier one is more like 1,000 calories. I need some solid food in me before I can go do that. So what that solid food generally is oatmeal, the slow cook variety. So that's sort of the base of the breakfast. I'll put walnuts in it, maybe some almonds, some sunflower seeds if I've got those, cranberries, sometimes blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Strawberries aren't very good this time of year, but if I can find some, I do those. I don't do the frozen ones on the strawberries. They're too goopy. I'll also add in ground flaxseed, always like a tablespoon of raw cacao. There'll be 5 grams of creatine, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. I'll put in 2 scoops of collagen. I like Great Lakes collagen powder. And depending how I'm feeling, I might put some protein powder in it. I usually use whey protein powder in the morning. I find that I like that a little better. Sometimes 1 scoop, sometimes 2, sometimes no scoops, just sort of depends how I feel. And then I'll add some almond milk, and I just sort of stir the whole thing up. And I really like it. I think it tastes really good. And then sort of while this is going on, I make a single espresso. Sometimes I'll put in some mushroom adaptogen powder in it. Sometimes I don't. And then I'll also put in some almond milk with that and heat that up and then have that with my breakfast. So let's take a quick moment to talk about creatine. There was a piece in the New York Times last week about creatine, and I swear to God, the New York Times is personally trolling me. They make me so angry. They were talking about creatine in terms of bodybuilding and athletic performance. That is not why I take creatine. Creatine sort of acts, without getting too deep into the weeds on it, it sort of acts as a battery. And you tend to have less of it in your body as you get older. I started taking it 5 grams a day about 2, maybe 3 years ago. Not so much to pump my muscles, but it works as a battery, not just for your muscles, but also your immune system, your brain, your whole body. So with the way it works, athletically, is it allows you to do like another rep or just push a little harder because you got that extra little bit of essentially battery. But that battery works throughout all the systems of your body. So that's why I take creatine. I don't know what its athletic effect is on me, but I take it for immune function and brain function. So it's creatine monohydrate. You can get it. It's very cheap. You can get a whole big tub of it for like, I don't know, $25. And interestingly enough, the person who told me about this was I was on a medical seminar thing with Mike Roizen and some of the people at the Cleveland Clinic, and they're very big on 5 grams of creatine monohydrate every day. So the next maybe hour or so, what I'll be doing is I'll be responding to emails, I'll read the news, I'll be, finish my oatmeal, drink my coffee, and I like to give it about an hour to digest because I don't like going to the gym and immediately going into a full sympathetic physical response in the gym, which is going to entirely shut down my digestion. I like to have this stuff fairly digested or fairly long in the process before I leave here and I go to the gym. So now we're like, 8:15, 8:30. I bundle myself up because it's cold outside. I'm lucky my gym is about 9 minutes away. And I drive to the gym and I get dressed and I start my workout. Okay, so let's get to the workout. I have been following the Joel Jamieson 8 Weeks Out program since about April last year. So that's 24 weeks I've been doing this. And as I said, I have no financial relationship with Joel or with his program. I just think it's the best strength and conditioning program I've ever seen. So the program will always start with the warm-up will be 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, his warm-up is like some other people's workouts. So anyway, I'll do the warm-up, and then the program always starts with cardio in the beginning, and that will be anywhere between 10 and 50 minutes of that. And depending on the day, sometimes it's high intensity, sometimes it's just steady state aerobics, sometimes it's oscillating aerobic, whatever that may be. And then I will get into strength training. Now, when I started this Joel Jamieson program, I just thought oh my gosh, I'm 63 years old. Can I actually do this? And there were 2 levels to it. And the first level, I thought, oh boy, I don't know if I can do this. And the second level seemed impossible. Well, I'm now the second level now is all I can say is the program works. So now I can do his program, which takes about, an hour and 15 minutes or so. And then I add on another maybe 20 or 30 minutes of sport-specific movement and exercises. In my particular sport, I'm training for skiing, which starts in about 4 weeks. And I'm going to be doing this at a fairly high level. So I take that quite seriously because, I'm going to be 64 when I'm doing this. Falling at high speeds at 64 miles an hour, or 64 years of age, not 64 miles an hour. I don't go that fast. Will lead to, some serious injuries. So I need to be strong and coordinated for that. So I do that training maybe 5 or 6 days a week, usually 5. I do 1 day a week with a trainer that I have here who works at the Live Well Center. And just a plug, if you live in Park City, the deal of the day is anything at the Live Well Center at the hospital. So my trainer, Nick, and I usually work on Mondays. And what Nick does, I told him, I want you to force me to do all the things I don't want to do. So I'm not somebody who needs to be told, go heavier, go faster, go all of that. I can do that just fine. What I don't like doing are mobility exercises or things that, I call them animal movements, like bear walks or these sort of like gorilla moves, all this sort of stuff that I just will not force myself to do it. And lately what he's been doing to me or asking me to do, he doesn't really do anything to me. He's a very nice guy, is stuff with imbalanced loads. So doing things like doing squats on a Bosu ball with a 35-pound weight only in one hand. So you're off balance and you have to sort of balance yourself there. Or again, on the Bosu ball, doing like cable stuff. Again, a lot of balance and mobility stuff. So I do that with him like once a week. There will always be one day a week at a minimum where I try and do very little, so that's a recovery day. And I think it's important with recovery days to move. Why is that? Because movement causes blood to flow. And if you're working out a lot of your training, you don't want to just stay still because the blood's not going to flow. You need more blood flow, which is going to bring nutrients to the areas that need them and remove the sort of damaged cells that are in there from, whatever you've done. And I have noticed from doing this Joel Jameson thing, how we always start the day with these mobilization exercises and then some sort of cardio thing. And my cardio instrument of choice is a spin bike. I don't really get sore anymore. Like I just don't. Because, I can tell my body's been worked out. It feels tight. It feels strong. But I don't get that sort of debilitating soreness that I used to get when I wasn't doing this level of cardio. So, we're going to hear more from Joel next week about metabolic health and how he structures these programs. I cannot wait to ask him because I think the guy's a genius. So anyway, I'll finish my workout program. And then go into the locker room, have a look at my phone, which is like filled with Slacks and emails at that point. Check those out, and then get out in my car and head home. One other thing, before I stop my workout, and this is very important, is the cool down. And most people don't, they just sort of skip that. But that's super key to this, is training your body to go from that highly stimulated sympathetic state into parasympathetic, which is the rest, recover, repair. So it's partially to just like, as soon as you can start that, the recovery process starts, but it's also training your body to be able to go into that state more easily. And it's something that I think it's a skill, it's a training, not dissimilar from like, training your cardiovascular system or strength training. It's training your body and your mind to be able to calm down. So I make sure that I don't get off the gym floor until I get my heart rate down to about 90, until I feel like, okay, everything's like decelerating, we're good. I can go into the locker room and start my day. So then another 9 or 10 minutes, I'm home. And I'm going to look at my computer. There's certainly some stuff that I need to respond to. I don't like responding to emails and Slacks on my phone. I just don't manage the phone that well. I like to have the bigger screen. So whatever sort of emergencies, fires need to be put out, I take care of that. And then sort of depending on my state of hunger, if I'm not super hungry, again, I don't like to eat right after the gym because my body is still pretty cranked up. Even if I've gotten my heart rate down somewhat, it's not down as far as I like it to be to eat. So what I'll do is I'll go up and have a shower. So the first part of the shower is, normal warm shower. It takes like 4 minutes. I clean myself up. And then what I do is I take the temperature handle on the shower and I pull it to full cold. And I force myself to stay in there for an entire minute. Now, full cold in some place like Southern California may be, 60 degrees, 65 degrees. Full cold here this time of year is under 40. It's going to be like in the high 30s. And that will be probably the hardest thing I will do the entire day, is to like sort of rotate myself in this stream of freezing cold water for a minute. And I do it for two reasons. One, it's like I said, if I can do that, nothing's going to get harder during the day. And it is much, much harder to do that than to actually get in like cold water, like a pool or a pond or something. Because your body, as you're moving, it just never adjusts to the cold, and it's just like constantly uncomfortable. The other thing is, when I get out, it's not as much of a blast of the neuroadrenaline as you get from doing, a full cold water immersion, but it feels pretty good. So I'm out of there and I'm pumped. I'm ready for the day. So I get dressed, I come down, and then I, look at the laptop, what's going on, and I'm probably at that point pretty hungry. So I'm going to eat probably some more, something similar to what I had for breakfast, or maybe I'll make some kind of like smoked salmon and salad. Maybe I'll have some boiled eggs. I'm staying away from the egg yolks. I know, don't send me hate mail. I know there's a lot of you egg yolk lovers out there. Have at it. I just, at this point in time in my life, I'm going to stay away from those. So I do that. And then it's just work, probably podcasting, similar to what I'm doing now, writing content, talking to clients, talking to my team up until about 12 or so. So around 12, I'll have another big meal. I make sure that I get a lot of leafy greens. I will say with my breakfast in the morning, what I'll do is I'll take like a handful of spirulina and I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, chlorella, I believe. They're algae, seaweed sort of things. And it's to get a certain amount of green into my system, which will help with nitric oxide production at my workout. And also allegedly, helps with detoxifying the body. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they say. All right. So with my lunch, usually after lunch, what I'll do is I'll take a probiotic, and then any of those sort of supplements that I'm going to take, I usually take at that point, midday. Supplements is a whole other topic that we can get into at another point in time. So there are a few things that I do during the day to optimize myself. And a lot of this, again, is sort of, I'm really somewhat anxious about this like ski thing that I'm going to do this winter. And so I'm working on not just my strength and conditioning in the gym, but also my brain. So one of the things I use is an app called Brain HQ. And when I saw this thing, it was something Dr. Mike Roizen told me about that he thought was really great. It's sort of the consumer level brain speed training of something that I once saw in the Red Bull High Performance Lab. So they have a much bigger, more tricked out version of these sort of exercises they use for their F1 drivers and their extreme athletes. It's really, the ones that I use are all about sort of tracking and then increasing my brain speed, being able to see things, recognize them, and then react in a positive way. And I'll do that. I try and do, not a lot, I mean, throughout the day, I'll maybe do 10 or 20 minutes of this. The other thing I do are some exercises that Dr. David Hardy, who is the functional neurologist we had on, to help with this is going to sound kind of funny, but make my cerebellum more efficient, essentially. We did some testing on myself. I have the blood pressure in one arm is a little different than the blood pressure in the other arm, which is one of the tests they do for sort of cerebellum inefficiencies. And as he was saying, like if we can clear this up, then a lot of my sort of speed of processing of my brain will improve. And I'm thinking, going fast, trees, bad things. It'd be really good to have this optimized. So I do some of that. What it looks like right now is, it took me about a month to get good at this, but I'm pretty good at it. It's like on my left side, drawing a figure eight with my hand clockwise while simultaneously drawing a figure eight counterclockwise with my left foot. So I'll do maybe 10 rounds on the left side, 10 rounds on the right side. And that takes me all of like 3 minutes. And I'll try and do that a few times during the day. The other thing that I've been using recently is this widget. I think it's called a Power Breathe. And what it is it restricts your ability to intake air. Why would I do that? So the reason it does is it strengthens your intercostal muscles, which are the muscles that expand your ribs and your lung capacity. And according to Dr. Ruth Zimmer, who's one of our science advisors, she was saying that they use something very similar in the OR, in the recovery rooms, to help people expand their alveoli. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Those are the air sacs in your lungs. So I use that twice a day, maybe 30 rounds. And I can feel it. There's some considerable resistance breathing that in. I've also heard that they're using these or similar devices for people who have CPOD or are recovering from COVID and have lung issues. So I'll do that. And then during the day, I try and move around as much as I can. If possible, I try and do all my Zoom calls standing. I try and write standing, although writing standing I find a little more difficult. To just not be sitting. If I sit for a long period of time, my hips get tight, which causes my low back to get tight, which is not good. So moving around, and we live in a lovely place here in Utah. So, assuming the weather's not really terrible, I'll just go out and just like walk around the block for, like a 10, 15-minute walk to just, sort of free up my brain and give myself a break before I go back to my work. These walks that I do during the day, I really love them. I think it's kind of magical, this place that I live. And, oftentimes I'll invite my wife, who also works at home here. It's like, hey, you want to go for a walk? Let's go check out what's going on outside. And, we look at the clouds and the blue sky and, smile and have a good time before we get back to work. I may also do some stretching exercises, especially things that will stretch the front part of my body, so my chest, and will cause the activation of the muscles in my back that pull my shoulder blades back. That's good. Sometimes I'll just do some air squats to, again, just sort of keep the energy flowing through my body. So it's that sitting all the time, I think, is really bad. At least bad for me. So I try and break that up as much as I can. Then we get to dinner time, and dinner's sometime around 6. I don't like to eat too late. Even at 6, I find I'm not that interested in eating a lot of food at night. And this is something that's sort of changed over the last few years. I used to have these huge dinners, and now for whatever reason, it doesn't feel right to me. So I try to eat at 6 and sort of be done by 6:30 or so, have a nice, easy dinner. And then what I'll do is there's usually some kind of work that I've got to clean up. But I try to have that part of my life done by 7:30. Dinner is also a time when I, regroup with my wife. How was your day? What's going on? And we reconnect. It's a really nice time. And around 7:30 or so is when sleep prep begins. And, as Norma Kamali has said on this show, the purpose of the day is to prepare you for sleeping. I don't take it quite as extreme as Norma does, but I am pretty strict about what I do at night. I don't watch television. I turn the television on every couple months or something. Or I like Ted Lasso. If there's a new Ted Lasso thing, I love Ted. But other than that, yeah, I find it doesn't really serve me well. It doesn't affect the right parts of my brain. And I find that, at a certain age, I want to just be careful of just like I don't eat junk food, why I don't want to bring junk into my brain. So I'm not a big TV person. I don't throw shade on people who love TV. I know people who just think it's the best thing ever. And it works for them. It doesn't really work for me. So during this time, I may lay in my sauna blanket and read. I may listen to music. I may meditate. I have a PEMF mat. Sometimes I lay on that for a little while. This part of the day is all about ramping down. It's what I often say, don't crash the plane, land the plane. So we have to slowly move into getting ready for sleep. And then around 8:30 or so, I'll go up and I'll make sure the bedroom has cooled down. I like to sort of get into bed at about 68 degrees. And then what I do is I'll set the thermostat so it ramps down to about 62, 63 during the night. And I find that works pretty well. Sometimes I'll take a hot shower or a bath before bed. That seems to work. And then I'll usually have some sort of quiet, soft meditation, even just 5 minutes or so. And I'll read something that I want to have in my brain for the night. And it's generally something, I have this Thai Buddhist monk that I've been reading recently. That works well. I try and stay away from the murder mysteries late at night and stuff like that, which, again, there's a place for those. I actually really like them a lot of the time, but that's not the thing that I want in my brain just before I go to sleep, because I really want to optimize this sleep. And, one of the things that I've written about in the past is the limiting factor for what we can do with our bodies, how we work with our brains, how we help other people, how useful we are in the world. These things are all limited by how well we're recovered, how much rest we have, because it's a cycle, up cycle, down cycle. You need the down in order to get the up. And to be useful and helpful to others, I have to be rested and recovered as best I can. And I really enjoy a good night's sleep. Now, I know you're thinking that I'm like one of these people that wear this hair shirt and are very rigid about all this stuff. And I'm not. My days are really exciting, really fulfilling. I'm talking to people all the time, very interesting people doing interesting things, learning different things. I'm on different people's podcasts all the time. We're writing about things. It's pretty great. And what I laid out here is sort of like a typical sort of, during the week day. But we always go to dinner. I try a couple times a week out with friends. We do a lot of fun stuff, and I don't want you to get the idea that I'm one of these very dour sort of obsessed people. I think that because everything that we do, all of our thoughts, all of our ambitions, all of this sits on top of our physicality. It does. And I was just with some friends the other night, and there was a couple of women there who just started doing a strength training program. And one of them told me, she said, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks, and I feel great. It really changes the way that I look at the world. And that's what I mean. Our projection of how we see ourselves in the future is what determines our behavior today. And if we feel good about our future, we feel good about our bodies, we feel good about what we're doing, that's very different than if you don't feel that way. And I know a couple of people in my world who are experiencing long COVID, and their view of the world, their view of their place in the world has changed dramatically because of that, because their sense of their well-being and their physicality has changed. So that's why I put all this emphasis on the body, our physicality. Is we have brains, we have heads, but they sit on top of our bodies. So we got to take care of that. And if there's one thing I could change about my sort of younger, misspent youth, it would be paying more attention to that and taking care of my body. And I'm still, I managed to make it through fairly well, but that's something that I probably would have been paying better attention to then. Okay, so let's quickly talk about some of the things that I sort of try and throw in during the week. Sauna. So if I can't get to the sauna, I'll use my sauna blanket, which I find actually, as I mentioned earlier, very effective at getting me really good deep sleep. The sauna blanket is a different experience than going in a regular sauna. The regular sauna that we have here is, the one at my gym is crazy hot. I don't know, it's 190 degrees, 200 degrees, something like that. So I'll do that. Usually I try and hit that like 3 times a week. And I use it for a couple of reasons. You get heat shock proteins. There's a lot of, I've spoken about 40% reduction in all-cause mortality, that Finnish study. But also it's very social. Like in the town that I live in, a lot of my friends I've met in the sauna, which might sound kind of weird, but it's like a cool place. You never know who you're going to meet in there. Some Olympian or some whoever. There's a lot of people with interesting stories. So I try and hit the sauna up maybe 3 times a week. The water here, they have 2 pools at the gym. One is a heated lap pool outside, and the other one they don't heat. So this time of year, it's getting cold. And I love the cold plunge. So I try and do that maybe, again, 2 or 3 times a week. Both of those activities are not stress reduction. They are stressors. Your body's doing a hormetic adjustment to them. So I don't want to do those too close to going to sleep, because if I jump in a cold plunge and then try and come home and go to sleep a half hour later, it's not going to happen. I've got too much neuroadrenaline around, and that's not going to do that. So anyway, I try and do that. I have one of these vibrating guns called a HyperIce, which I find is very effective on my hip flexors get really tight, which is probably from sitting. So I try and do that, basically when my hips hurt, I'll use that. And then every day I will stretch. And it's been my habit for, decades, that I stretch before bed. So I just do some sort of simple stretches. And this is completely non-fact based, but in my mind, I like to stretch my body out before I go to sleep, because then I feel like my body can heal itself better if it's stretched out. That's just like a complete mythology that I've made up, but it works for me. So that's part of what I do. And then, as I was mentioning earlier, I try and make sure that I get out into nature. We live in this really amazing place, and just walking out in the snow through the forest it's just a wonderful experience. So I make sure that I do that, as many times during the week as I can, because that really helps with all those sort of metrics, the sleep efficiency and all of that. And I just every time I do one of those, I have this sense of well-being, like the world is perfect. This is a wonderful place. Everything is good. And I just feel kind of happy with it. So that's about it. That's a day in the life, more or less. These things get adjusted. I will say there will be days where I don't sleep well, or my body is just really stressed from something or other. And then I don't do my gym workout. In fact, I may try and sort of dial back my workday. I may take a nap during the day. I'm of the feeling that, like, if I'm feeling tired, or there's there's like too much stress, I do too many stressors for whatever, like maybe I've worked out too hard, or I don't know, something or other, I feel, don't fight it. Like, I know enough to just dial things back, and it's like, okay, after lunch, I'm just gonna lie down for 20 minutes and I'm gonna take a nap. Maybe I'll put on my brain tap for 20 minutes and just chill, or lay on my PEMF mat or something like that. I don't think that, trying to like fight through that, drink some coffee, rev myself up, try and like get through this is really best practices, because I'm going to pay for that. I'm probably not going to make good decisions. If I do it more than a couple days, I'm going to start having, I'm going to get sick. Things are going to break down. It's not good. So I try and, I'll back that off. So like I said, I've been doing Joel's program for, I don't know what I said, like 24 weeks. But I took a whole week off during the summer. And then if I'm feeling really stressed out, kind of beat up, like when I was at Rancho La Puerta a couple weeks ago, I didn't really do any concerted exercise for about 4 days. And we just go for like little hikes and walk around. But it was really about recovery. My body felt great after I did that. So, it's good we have these programs, we have these goals, we have things we want to do, but, give yourself a break. Like, we're humans, right? We can't we can't keep like full on all the time. And this is, if there's one big challenge I have in my life, I don't know about your guys' lives, but in my life, it's about that dialing back, being able to go from sympathetic to parasympathetic, being able to go into the down state, paying more attention to yin, that just quiet observation. This is, this is my challenge. So I hope this was helpful to everyone today. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. David@superage.com. If you enjoyed the SuperAge podcast today, please tell your friends about it. And as always, you have the opportunity to leave us up to a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this program. That would be great. And you can leave a comment. And a big thank you to the sponsors of this program. Inside Tracker. Go to insidetracker.com/ages. Save 20% on all their products. And by Element, LMNT, my favorite electrolyte mix. Go to drinkelement.com/ageist. Get a free sample pack. And to Timeline Nutrition, which is one of our new sponsors, someone I'm really excited about, and their new product, MitoPure. Go to timelinenutrition.com/ageist. Use the code ageist at checkout. Save 10% on your first order of MitoPure. We'll have links to all those in the show notes. Everyone, next week we got the master, Joel Jameson, coming up on the podcast. Hope to see you then. Everyone, have a wonderful week. Take care now. Bye-bye.